sometimes like while it's like connecting, it is already starting, so
Oh
there's
yeah.
like there's like a
So
lag.
we're gonna just suddenly hear ourselves on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah.
You
Well, it
never
hasn't
know.
started yet.
It shows on my end that it has started, but it's not showing anything, which is troubling.
Your video is also like now frozen in like
Great.
a
Love
spectacular. Oh, okay.
love
Now
when
you're
that
good. Now you're
happens.
good.
Okay, it says that we are live, but nothing is showing up, which is troubling and not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not usually what I'm going which for. Troubling. Okay, I see us on YouTube, so
Okay.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. I'm not seeing us on my little dashboard thing, but we're here. Okay.
Okay. I think
Uh
people are catching. Yeah. No. Now I see us where people are catching up on our troubleshooting. So this has been good. This is the quality content that we're here
this is
for.
the quality content
We're professionals.
you come to us for. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Colby. Okay, we're here. We did it. Welcome to Nonfiction Book Club June, a different
Yeah.
time edition.
Yeah.
I'm
We have no
Nicole.
set time anymore, really.
No, we don't really have. We just do it whenever we feel like it, and we're about
Yeah.
to go on joint parental leave.
Yeah.
We're so excited about our parental leave.
Yeah. I'm very happy for you. This indefinite time you're taking off. I'm excited to see what you birth in that time.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I'm pretty pregnant. I'm quite pregnant.
Quite
Uh,
pregnant.
I am several weeks out. So that is what we're talking about. Yeah.
Any day now.
Yeah.
Deboki originally was gonna come to see Olivia Rodrigo here in Kansas City,
Yeah.
but she's due like the same day.
Yeah, I think it's like the
Like a
week
week early.
before,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
like I given like the average time it takes the first time mom to like actually give
Yeah,
birth.
I'm
It's
really
like,
thinking it's not.
yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. You're gonna get to like rock out to Olivia Rodrigo, and I'm gonna be
The
in pain. Like,
while you're just thinking about you suffering.
yeah, I can't wait to message you from the bed, just being like, ah. Yeah. Cool. It's good. It's good.
It's all great.
Yeah.
Hello. If you're just joining us, I don't know why we keep introducing ourselves. I'm Nicole. This is my YouTube channel, and this is the only thing I do on this YouTube channel. So that's it.
Welcome. Yeah. I'm Deboki, and I'm on Nicole's channel. Sometimes I make other videos too on my channel. Every so often, I remember to post something, but I just haven't been reading enough. Really, nonfiction book club has been the thing that I read for, which is good. Like I have needed a reason to read. My brain has been struggling, but this is the thing that has kept me reading.
And this month we. Oh no, my camera's freezing on me again. What if I disappear and come back? Maybe I won't come back.
Oh no.
Well,
Well, while Nicole's camera resets, oh no, I was very worried I was going to have to improv this and like keep everyone entertained.
just a one-woman show.
Yeah.
This is we're discussing Anansi's Gold, the man who looted the West, outfoxed Washington, and swindled the world. Which I promised you going into this that it was like a scammer book. It's that is partially what it is. It's also
Yeah,
like a Ghanaian history book.
definitely.
It's doing a lot of other things in addition to that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like there's a like sneak attack of it all, where you think
Hmm.
like, oh, we're just gonna talk about this shisty guy, but
Yep.
actually we're gonna explain a lot of things about like it's a lot of very specific detail about Ghanaian history, but then also like there it is itself kind of it is It's an interesting choice for a nonfiction book club because it is in many ways a nonfiction book about lies,
Hmm.
and like the nature of lies and the nature um, like telling those stories and how they in turn like shape truths to a certain degree.
Hmm.
So the this story in like 2 to 3 minutes. So
Yeah. It's hard. It's
uh-huh.
hard to condense in 2 to 3 minutes, but there's a scam. There is a scam.
There's a scam. There's a scam. So 1957, Ghana gains independence. There's President Kwame Nkrumah. There's political unrest, and a few years later he is ousted, and then a few years after that he dies. He's like a very important figure in Ghanaian history, though. In honestly, like international sort of politics around this time
Hmm.
too, because Ghana was the first sub-Saharan African nation to get independence, and there's a wave of other countries behind it. But
Hmm.
anyway, he's like big deal. He dies, and this man, this book is ultimately about, who goes by so many names,
Yeah.
is living in Philadelphia, and he is incarcerated at the time of Nkrumah's death, and he convinces people that he had been besties with
Hmm.
Kwame Nkrumah, and that. Oh, I guess I skipped. And you got to go further back, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a chief or king or somebody like pre-colonial Ghana who was very wealthy, and when the British came, they tried to take all of this guy's gold, and he hid it. And so then there's this is sort of like the original gold, the original sort of like
Hmm.
stashed rumors of like hidden gold, right? So there's that, and the people are like desperately trying to find the hidden gold, and then so after Kwame Nkrumah's death, this man, he's in prison in Philadelphia, and begins to convince people.
He's originally Ghanaian, though.
He's originally Ghanaian. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes. Important details that he is originally Ghanaian, but he went to Philadelphia to go to school. Except he never actually enrolled.
Yep.
He just was hanging out in Philadelphia, and this is when he begins his the scam of his lifetime, which is convincing people that during Nkrumah's presidency he had basically like hidden away millions and millions of dollars of gold reserves, and that he had entrusted it to this man who just needs a few dollars from you to get access to the money. And if you just give
Yeah.
him a few dollars, he will go get this money, and you will get 10 to 1 of your few
Hmm.
dollars. My camera is gonna do whatever it's gonna do, but I'll keep my mic is different from my camera, so I should be able to keep talking
Yeah.
even if
So
I visually disappear.
it's for the entire live stream.
Uh-huh. Anyway, so yeah, this is the story of that. The Oman Ghana Trust Fund is the name of the that he gives to the thing, and he.
it,
Oh, you go ahead.
yeah, and it just keeps going. Like, I feel like when I was told this was a scam book, I was like, okay, so there's a scam. But this is like a scam that just like keeps building and building. I guess we may have lost Nicole. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, cool. And it builds like in relationship to other things that are happening in Ghana's history as well. Like there's like all this change in leadership, there are coups, there's violence, there's like these just like a lot going on politically too, where like his position as someone who keeps getting increasingly wealthy and well known gets him in like positions, I don't want to say of power, but like of adjacency to power that like both help him continue this scam but also eventually endanger him because you like your his proximity to power is so like dependent on his ability to pull this scam off, and the longer he keeps like putting off paying off the investors, like obviously the more everyone else is like, well, like maybe we just don't need you anymore.
Yep. He briefly runs for president in the middle there also.
It's so Trumpy. Oh my God. I like that whole, okay, so like I think what it made me realize is like, I mean, look, I would never give credit to Trump for like originality, but like I think it just like really emphasized just how unoriginal Trump's tactic. Like, I just want to dive into this because like that story arc was just like I just could not stop thinking about Trump, and like I know we're all in the middle of it, so like I yeah, I just have to talk about it. So basically, in this section of the book, he is realizing that he's in a little bit of trouble. His solution is I should run for president. At the same time, he's going through a trial that is basically proving that he is full of shit about a number of things. And part of the goal of the trial or part of the goal of becoming president is to basically make it so that he can't get in trouble for those things. It's like all stuff that like that is going on, right? Like this is all stuff that is like happening, and it's just like astounding to be like reading it where you're like, I don't know, man. Like I don't. The thing like throughout this book, every chapter, like the word that just keeps coming up is the audacity, like the absolute audacity to be like, you know what? Like I'm gonna take this to the next level. Like I'm gonna run for president. And he ends up not being able to because he like doesn't really correctly file, I think, his paperwork and stuff. And it's like, obviously the trial is probably taking a little bit of time. There's a lawyer involved who's like a little bit shady, the way that like you kind of like maybe think of some of Trump's lawyers being maybe not super unshady. So there's just so many parts of that sequence where I was just like, okay, yes, like the scam of it all.
The scam of it all. Yeah, I had a mental during all of that too. I was just like, I don't like listen. I hate to make this about us, but I can't help it. Like
I know. No. It's too much. It's too much.
It's simply too much. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. Deeply unsettling. Deeply unpleasant. That's like in general too. There's a lot of vibes of like in the beginning, he's mostly ripping off people who you're like, yeah, they could have had it coming.
Yeah.
And then, but the longer it goes, the more you're like, oh, well, okay, this is no longer true. Late in the book, when they're when you're in the 80s, as it's all sort of starting to unravel, they mentioned this woman who sold her house for $70,000 and was finally able to not worry where her next meal was going to come from, and then promptly signed over $65,000 to this, and vibes shifted, vibes changed a little bit.
Yeah, because that was the other thing that one of the things that comes up, especially in the second half of the book, basically there's more and more evidence. There are even trials where like the evidence is all like real evidence, like very concrete things that show the ways that this story that he has been telling people is clearly bullshit. Like there's this amazing moment where you find out that this like deed or something that he's like claimed, like that he's reported having, that like shows that he has access to this gold, like includes like the names of, I think, Nkrumah's children who like couldn't have existed at the time that those deeds were supposedly written. Like they just weren't born yet, right? Like there's like things like that. Yeah. And so you just like there are all these things that are very concrete proof. And so there's that thing though where for the investors who have like stuck with it, they're like, and like by this point they have stuck with this for decades. Like they've been constantly told and this sorry, I'll get to this later, but basically they've been constantly told, and like the payout's coming. they just like buckle down even further though. Like it's that thing that everyone says with like misinformation or like how hard it is to debunk things. Like when confronted with the truth, a lot of times people will just like actually go harder
Mm-hmm.
on their belief. And especially in this case, there's such a sunk cost fallacy for a lot of the people where they're like, I've already put in so much money. I keep getting told I need to put in like a little bit more money just to help him
Mm-hmm.
like deal with this. And so I'm just going to put in that little bit more because I think that this payout's real, or like I can't handle the idea that this
Right.
payout is not
That's the thing.
real.
Like it's at you people getting to a point where like psychologically the options are I either put a little bit more money into this slot machine or I accept that I've been duped,
Yeah,
and that second option is like unbearable.
right.
And it's not, it's like the way in which the second option is unbearable, and also um the the packaging on the first option, he's like charismatic and like persuasive, and I just need to put a little bit more money into this, and it's so much easier to accept that option than
Yeah.
the option that I have in fact just been had.
Yep.
And like yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I realized reading this book is I am like too dumb for finance crimes. Like I like I mean I kind of knew this cuz like I've watched Real Housewives of New Jersey for like a while now and I still could not tell you what Teresa Giudice's crime
What
was.
she
Like
do? Yeah.
she did some kind of mortgage fraud. That's what I know. I know those words. I know like separately what they mean. I
Mortgage and
don't
fraud.
yeah, like I still could not tell you what her actual crime was that she
Uh-huh.
went to the jail for. So
Jail. She went
yeah,
to the jail for a
yes.
crime. I don't know what it was.
Yes. And reading this book, I felt like there were so many times where I didn't even like I had a hard time even sort of understanding the premise of the original story. Like I understand the premise of there is hidden treasure out there
Yeah.
and like if you give me money, I can give you money. But I like don't fully understand what that money that you're being given is fully supposed to be doing. Like I get it if it's like, oh, you're financing like an expedition that I'm
Yeah.
going out on, but like I think there was some mechanism of the I guess the story is that like making like unlocking the deed or like somehow unlocking the money just like was complicated like as a process.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, no worries.
It's so bad. It's so terrible. I don't know what to do about this. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I think the next time I go away, I'm just gonna replace myself with a little like a cartoon. Put a little stick figure or something up here, and we'll just go with that. I to that point though about like not fully understanding like that's part of the point. I think like
Right.
that's part of the
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Like that's the thing. That's the goal though, is that it's is making it so convoluted that people that like that's yeah that is part of the scam, is
Yeah.
relying on the idea that there's just like complicated international law things,
Yeah.
and international banks. I don't know,
Yeah.
and like
And there's also like this story of like you're investing in Ghana. Like I think
yeah.
that's like a big part of it too. It's like selling the story of somehow you're also doing something else.
I mean, yes and no. I also I think yeah, sure. I think that that's the argument, or that's the case for like blaming Izza himself. But
Mhm.
I don't know that that's like
Mm,
I to
yeah.
me most of the early investors in particular just felt like people who saw additional. I mean, like the whole thing is at the time of independence, it was abundantly clear that the British had been treating, what's the word that she uses, a mine, treating an entire
Yeah.
country as a mine, and like there's there was an idea for many of these people, many of the early rich people, that they essentially could also participate in exploiting this exploiting the resources and also participate in the
Yeah,
resource
true.
drain
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of this country. The early chapters of also feature a whole bunch of like basically discussion of how much money the British had stolen from Ghana, and
Yeah.
then said, I don't know, you guys are so poor, too bad.
Yeah.
So sorry. So
British.
sorry about that.
Yeah.
Seems like it's your problem now. We don't go here anymore.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah. So I don't know, the idea of like you're investing in Ghana, but that backdrop is also part of it, right? So like you have
Mm-hmm.
like it's super convoluted. You don't really understand what's happening. Like where's all this money moving? I don't know. It's doing like weird
Yeah.
international money things. Uh,
Okay. Well, yes. No, I think that makes total sense. Because like yeah, like the part of the point of it is to basically obscure where this money is going and like create as much ambiguity around it. Oh, uh-oh. I don't know if we've completely lost Nicole. Uh okay. I guess I should try to think of something to say while we're waiting for Nicole. If you guys want to talk about anything to just throw it into the chat. But yeah, I think like I said, I think Nicole's point makes like a lot of sense that I think a lot of this scam is like built a lot on creating as much ambiguity around like what is going on with the process, especially because there's like decades of just like constantly telling people like no, your money's going to come soon or no, 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 like it's going to come soon and then it just keeps on happening. Um but it's yeah, I think that's like where I again feel so dumb when it comes to finance crimes. Now I don't know what's going on. We're in like full chaos mode for our last thing. Yeah. Yeah, I think so like Colby, you're saying like because the country had just become independent, it was like these investors saw it like a public good becoming private. And yeah, and I think that like relates a little bit to like what Nicole was saying about mining. Um oh, wait. So Nicole says that it's only me who can't hear her. Are you guys able to hear her? Oh shit, am I just talking over Nicole? Oh, this is so weird. Okay. Okay, phew. Well, I'm not being rude. That's what I've learned. I was rudely accused of being rude. Um, yeah, but like yeah, there's that like idea of mining and I think that's like one of the really important points like the author kind of makes towards the end because sorry, okay. I'm going to ad lib my discussion of this book for the next 30 minutes and then hopefully at the end Nicole comes in and says, "Yes, Deboki, you are correct. This is all right." It'll be really bad if she comes on and it's like, "Actually, Deboki, this was all wrong. This was all quite
Hello.
quite
Can you
off."
hear me?
Ooh, I
Ooh.
hear you.
Okay.
You're gonna save me from myself.
um oh my god. All right. Okay. As you were saying, financial crimes.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Finance crimes are hard. But also I really like the discussion that the author had. Like you brought up the mining thing, and I think like another big one, which I think you were kind of like alluding to, is the idea that like a lot of these people who are getting scammed, like part of why they're getting scammed is because, oh, I see you in Discord, so I'm hoping that means
You know, who can
that
say? I'm going to
yeah.
stop trying. I think every time I try to turn my camera on, I make it worse. So I'm going to stop doing that. Continue.
I saw you for a second and then you disappeared.
Yeah.
Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, sorry. That a lot of the people who kind of got drawn in by the scam were people who like didn't really know that much about Ghana, and so that's
Right.
part of why they were easy to target. It's like that ignorance made it very easy to sell a story about like the country and about what this money, like the origins of the money, the like the complexity of getting it, what investing in it was going to be doing. Like it definitely, yeah, there was multiple elements of that. And that comes up as well with the coups, because one of the things that we find out about some of these coups is like obviously there are CIA like America
Yes.
shenanigans involved in terms of like who they're supporting and whether or not those people are actually great leaders. And so there's like a lot of these little threads of like the ways that other countries, particularly US and England, are kind of like involved in this story.
Yes. Yes. So that's yeah. That's also just like a huge piece of this. So like one, that's a big part of how they're selling the lie in the first place. Is
Mhm.
that there is like active evidence of rich countries exploiting like and like extracting resources here, right? So there's a
Mhm.
little bit of like the grift is real. Like there's a degree to which like the grift is already real,
Yep.
and people are essentially like what is being sold to you is the idea that you too can participate in it. The
Mhm.
other thing is that like wrapped up in all of this is the way in which like who get like, a thing that is happening kind of throughout this book is questions about who gets to own like what is true and like what is
Mhm.
factual, and like there is so much of this is being like actively created and fostered by foreign governments who are just like this is like essentially the story of the Cold War, is that like we the US government made a lot helped support a lot of the really truly villainous regimes because they were friendly devils, essentially was the idea.
Right.
Like there's a bit highlighted like 232. They're talking about Rawlings, and this is like before people go all in on undermining it. But on
Mhm.
the whole, the perception was, I think, internationally that Rawlings was a good guy and a stabilizing influence. This is like a man who, like his regime murdered
Right.
countless people, was a good
Yep.
guy and a stabilizing influence. In London and in Washington, no one wanted to announce that Rawlings' regime was supporting criminals or that it was propped up by criminals, especially if that was actually true. And like where
Mhm.
like the where if that were true, that would
Yeah.
somehow make it even worse. Like that
Yep.
like the open acknowledgement, like, oh God, we definitely can't admit that we're actively supporting war criminals.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things that was interesting too is like the way that like criminality was kind of like baked into the chaos of like the switch from like I mean when I say switch that makes it sound like oh it just went from one government to another or like one ruler to another, but like really there are like violent coups involved, like there are like very abrupt transitions of power, and so that's like part of what makes some of this initial foundation like possible for this scam. Like I keep like coming back to this question of like how does a scam like this like start, just
Mm-hmm.
because like again I don't like that's more about me and my lack of understanding of finance crimes. But that was like an interesting part of it to me because I like it kind of makes sense like when you like look at the context for like some of the way like the like yeah I don't know, sorry I don't know if I'm making sense right now, but it was just it makes sense that among chaos of like in like these convoluted stories, that this is something that would be a story that people would buy into.
Yes. Yeah. There are so many like different forces at play here between like there's there's just like a drive to oh my god. Cool. There's just there's like there's this drive to believe and like buy into um like a fantastical story, right? Like there is something about it
Hmm.
that is there's like a I think like base like level one is just this sense of like wouldn't it be great if it were true? Is like
Right.
the one piece of it. There's these elements of like not understanding I don't know international banks. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's also the like active like active um, uh, efforts of international governments to like further support this. You know, like there's like a
Right.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, the number of times that like diplomatic passports are involved in this was like a lot. I was not anticipating that.
uh huh. Uh
like
huh.
like how much of this con relied on his ability to get diplomatic
Diplomatic
passports.
passports.
Like
And like the one specific numbered diplomatic
right.
passport,
Yeah.
really important that he has that one.
Yeah. Oh, man. The audacity, like the nonstop audacity of it. Um it also, I mean, this is not a central part of the book, but like a recurring thing that I think the author was definitely oh, hi. Um
Yeah, I don't know.
a recurring thing that the author was clearly enjoying writing about was the number of times that Blamieza's wife would catch him like having affairs, and like the
Yes,
ways that she would catch him having
yes,
affairs.
she's the true.
were-
Yes, she's the best. I mean, I know these are all real people; they're not characters, but she's the best
yeah,
character in the book.
yeah, yeah. Like
She's
there are
so
just so many
lovely.
times where she's like, nope, I know what to do with this phone situation. I'm gonna like fly out and surprise you, and I'm gonna know that your girlfriend is at the hotel.
Uh huh.
That there's a great story where you think that she's about to be wrong, and then like, no. She's right. Yes, Colby mentions like disabling the security system. Like it's a story that I'm sure like in the moment, because I think that story involves her being able to get her kids to like, because she's finally like ready to leave him. And like so there's a way which that story has like such high stakes, but like the way that it's told in the book, like you're just like, this lady, I will watch a movie about her. Like I will watch the story of how she just dealt with this guy for a while.
Her awful scammy husband. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to know everything there is to know
Right.
about her. The fact that she had like a special nickname because of her ability to do investigative work,
Yep.
her PI abilities. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. I think I maybe have a solution to this camera thing.
Ooh. This is exciting.
Let's find out if it worked or not. It does not appear to be working.
Oh. No. There we go.
It's so big. I don't know how to make it not so big, but it's fine. I'm here.
It's okay. It's a very intimate view.
Oh, there we go. There we go. That's cool. I downloaded an app that turns my phone into a webcam on my
Oh,
computer. So,
nice.
anyway, I gotta look down here. Okay. The wife is great.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
conclusion,
Yeah.
she's the best.
Yeah. I did want to know more about her, like, because there are a lot of questions that I have
Mm-hmm.
about her,
Mm-hmm.
because I like, this is not a criticism of the book. This is just me being like, I would love to know more about her. But like, there were so many things that I wanted to know about, like what she knew about like her husband
Yes.
and their marriage. Like, I had so many questions. I get why that's like obviously not the central focus point of the book. Like, I don't think it would have been any better with that stuff. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I would have enjoyed it. Like I wanted to know.
Yes. Yes, when Colby says when she went over the fence after disabling the security system, like truly incredible.
Yeah. Cinematic.
He said, "I'm keeping your kids here." She said, "Absolutely not."
Nah,
Disabled
yeah.
the security camera, scaled
Yeah.
the fence. By the time she got there, the whole team was like, "Yeah, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll go get the kids."
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Truly the best. Truly
Yeah.
adore her.
Oh, also, something I wanted to mention, there's a great sequence too, or not sequence, but there is like a really fascinating part where Blamiesa like basically gets on 60 Minutes and he thinks this is going to be good for him.
Yes.
And then it is not good for him because he did not understand what 60 Minutes does, didn't realize that they were going to like dive into his past and that they were going to like try to fact check things. And so then the 60 Minutes comes out and it's not, I think that's like a big turning point, right? Because that's like where like it's like, yeah, no, the story doesn't make any sense. But for anyone who's curious, I did look it up and you can find it. Like there's a Facebook, like if you look up Oman Ghana Trust Fund 60 Minutes, I found it posted at least on Facebook, and so I did watch it. And like, so the moment that's like described in the book where like they do this great like reveal that's like they're setting up this whole story. They're like he like knew the president and he was like got the gold, or he knows where the gold is and all of this stuff. And then they're like, but he couldn't because he was here. And they're like right outside the prison that like is ground zero for where he came up with the story, because he like just wanted to like get out of trouble. Like that's basically what happened. Like that is the actual origin of like the story that completely blew up and took over his life for decades. Anyway, sorry. It's described in the book and it is amazing to see in action. I do recommend watching it because like I think she did a great job describing the thing, but like the segment, but it is interesting to actually like see it in action, and it's interesting to see him in action because you actually get to see him talk, and so you're kind of like, oh, okay, like he does have this like very friendly vibe where you're like, yeah, like I don't know, like I don't think he's trying to scam me. Like I could see where like maybe people are like taken in by him being kind of charming, but yeah.
Interesting. I got it. Yeah, that's really cool. That's delightful.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like going through all my little notes and tabs and stuff. I feel like my entire experience of this live stream has been dominated by trying to be
the camera. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is our this is our like strangest live stream because of the camera, and also because it's like a book that for us is like we were saying, like a little bit different. Like if we're gonna enter the meta portion of our live stream,
which honestly, we held off for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what's surprising, which I think is partially because it is so different. Like this is much more narrative than anything we usually do. And I will say, like, I did have a hard time sometimes following this book, and I do think there was one moment towards the end that sort of, I think, kind of brought out why I was sometimes having trouble. It's not just because I'm dumb at finance crimes, though that was a big part of it. And so that's not the author's fault. Like that's just me like getting really hung up on like I don't understand how this works, but like maybe that's the point, like we were talking about. But there's a point where I wish I had bookmarked the page. But it's like when Blamiesa is having a bunch of convenient heart attacks, basically, and that let him get out of trouble. And he, let's see if I can find it. Like, I feel like I'm so close.
Somewhere around 266, then Blamiesa had I did actually tab.
Oh, thank you. Amazing.
His new suite in London, blah blah blah. Then he had a heart attacks, and this doctor,
Yeah.
and his doctor friend who's
Yep.
also
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Okay.
criminal,
So it's
but
this
is
the
trustworthy
sequence
as
where
hell.
they're talking about the doctor, and I realized this is so nitpicky. This is like just like a nitpicky writing thing. But it just like again like helped me sort of understand what I was having a hard time was in the beginning of this paragraph. So they're describing the doctor Gordon Kells, and they're kind of alluding to him having this controversial, and by controversial I mean murderous like history.
Mm-hmm.
And they say he was also fresh off a scandal involving Ronnie Cray, one of London's preeminent gangsters, Lord Boothby, a closet aristocrat, and Boothby's lover, Leslie Holt. Kells had been accused and cleared of killing Holt with a massive overdose of a fact-acting anesthetic drug. The thing that was really hard for me in this paragraph
Mm-hmm.
that I got really hung up on is that like of the cast of people introduced in this sentence, only one of them is ever referred to again.
Yeah.
So there's like this gangster, there's this lord, and like they're never referred to again.
Yeah.
I don't know what the motive for murder is. I don't know anything about why it happened, what the details are. So I'm being told there's a scandal, but I don't know really any of the important details about the scandal. And I felt like there were other moments sort of like that where I would read through something and like things wouldn't quite stick just because of the way that they were kind of implemented.
Yeah.
So that was like my only like kind of complaint about the book, because overall I think it was like a great read. It's just like when I hit this moment, I was like, oh, this is the thing that I think I've been kind of struggling with in this book, is I feel like just some things needed like a little bit either to be cut down or to be expanded. Like that whole sequence, like that paragraph could have been boiled down to he was accused of murdering someone and then he was cleared and like you could have like accomplished more with less, I felt like. And that was kind of a thing that I felt like happened a few times throughout the book, especially because there are so many people in this book to keep track of, and there is a very handy like cast of characters in the beginning. But that's also what it like there were times where I realized reading this book made me think of reading a fantasy novel where like I'm trying to keep track of so many threads, and I was kind of having a hard time with that. But that is like my only complaint, and it is so minor.
I think that like there's a thing there that where yes, so there's a lot of that where there's a lot of like details being introduced, and I think that it was tactical, but to your point, it's like it worked. It didn't always work. Like sometimes it did and sometimes it didn't. So like I think that like that is a thing she's doing a lot throughout. I would argue that it's deliberate because of the nature of the story she's telling. Like part of the point is that it's there is just a lot of like convoluted stuff going on here. Like the point is that there's a lot of questions about like reputation and about who gets to own like what is true and all of those reasons for doing it that way don't like
Yeah.
whether or not it was like I think it is more effective in some places than in others, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
The inclusion of extraneous detail, because like yes, like I think that it's I think that there are definitely places where it is meant to sort of pull you through and like give you a sense of I don't know, like in the moment of like
Yeah.
but at the specific the example that you just cited too happened so late in the book, and as we're sort of like marching towards the end, although at several points I kept thinking, I'm like, okay, well surely this is a pacing thing that I did actually enjoy, is where I kept thinking, well, he's clearly about to be, it's about to all collapse in on him, but I'm like looking at how much book is left, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't understand.
When is it happening? Yeah.
How are we still going? Surely it's
Yeah.
almost over, but the number of pages left suggests that it's not almost over. So,
Yep.
yeah. Anyway, I think this question of like the facts and like who gets to. I don't know if you read the, at the end, not the
Yes.
acknowledgements.
Yes.
What's the word? What's the before that? The sources and references thing that she has, her little like bit about there where she's talking about about like the difficulty in finding the information. When I was in college, I did a paper on I took a class, a Cold War class, and I wrote my final paper on something about Kwame Nkrumah and the non-aligned movement. So it was like Ghana, Egypt, just like a handful of countries,
Mm.
basically saying we do not want to be part of political theater or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but so in order to write this paper, like finding sources, finding like acceptable and like credible sources that I could use about um Nkrumah and about like the period that she is talking about in the first couple chapters was like wildly difficult. Like I had to go to
Mm-hmm.
the Library of Congress to like borrow
Oh,
books. I could not at my university
yeah.
find stuff. Anyway, so like all of that to say that there's a way in which uh I don't know. I like the this like sources and references bit at the end. It's interesting because I almost felt I would have loved this as like part of a preface to the book
Mm.
because
Hmm.
there's a like
Yeah.
so I mean she states it explicitly a few times throughout the book that like the this is a story of how in the first chapter this is a story of how lies change history, and it is a story that comes with a warning. If a lie is big enough, if enough people profit from it, that lie will not just change history, it will become history. And like she repeats that sort of refrain throughout, but there is something about the way in which just like the difficulty of finding information and of like of verifying that information, and like
Yeah.
the I don't know it how do I say like the thing that I'm getting at, there's an element of like meta project baked into this book, I guess, of like the difficulty of her
I'm so
writing.
sorry. I'm
Oh,
like hacking my
are you okay?
I'm sorry. This just happens to me out sometimes.
Fun, the joys of creating a whole person.
Yeah.
uh
Keep
but
talking. I'm just muting my microphone so that people
okay.
don't have to hear me like hacking up my lungs.
Just hope you're okay. You know, it's really just us and Colby at this point. But what was I gonna say? Oh, I don't know. I'm like having like a lot of like big thoughts and feelings about the sort of larger meta project of this book. It's about like the way in which this book is again, it's like it is a nonfiction book about lies, but then
Yeah.
also like the research work. Like maybe what I'm saying is that I would have appreciated more of that woven into it.
Hmm. Like her detailing her research process.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could see
yeah.
that.
That's like a
Yeah, I
different.
think
I'm
there's like maybe
asking
like a
for a different
tension
book at this
there.
point, but
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
I think there's like actually I think there's like an interesting tension in this book between the fact that it is both a narrative and analysis. And I think it would have, I think there's a part of the book that wants to be able to do more analysis, but it had to be more focused on the narrative, or maybe not analysis, but like more about that like surrounding world
Yeah,
of, of writing the book. That like it's just because it's so focused on the narrative, it doesn't really have the space for. But
yeah.
like you could write that secondary book that is about the process,
The
and that would
process.
also be like a book in and of itself because yeah, like I didn't really think that much about what it would have been like to do the research for this book until I got to the end of it. So like I thought a little bit about like like I wonder like when she's detailing like conversations and stuff like that, like where is that coming from, the way that you would wonder that I think anytime
Yeah,
you
yeah,
read someone
yeah.
documenting a story with dialogue. But like yeah, it does seem like there are so many underlying questions around like how do we know this history, how do we like i I feel like this, for some reason my brain is going to the surveillance
Oh, yeah,
capitalism,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
what is it, like
Who
who
knows?
knows
Who
knows,
decides?
yeah, and
Uh-huh.
who decides or
Yes.
something.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there's something there um kind of wrapped up into the like the story aspect of this book too, because I feel like that's something that she like refers to throughout the book. Like that's, I mean, it's wrapped up in the title, Anansi's
Uh-huh.
Gold. Like it's about this idea of a storyteller.
Uh-huh.
Um and like she really like grounds that too in like the specific like world we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
So I yeah, that is really interesting. I hadn't thought about that, like in terms of like being something that would have been really interesting to expand on more. And now I'm like, yeah, really cool. And now I kind of want to like hunt down interviews and see if she's talked more about the process.
I do yes to that, but also after having like thinking this through out loud with you, I take it all back because I think that in terms of what this wanting this book to have done something different, I am interested. I am still interested in all of that.
Yeah.
But because a lot of what she's also doing is like there's like an element of intentional sort of like corrective and like setting the record straight on points in ways that I think I can see how it would read as undermining that goal to include too much of the like I don't know to included too much of the like the any places where it could be treated as speculative wanting to be firmer in like in laying out like sort of known and established facts.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess like to Colby's question, would you want her first person perspective in this story?
I thought yes, but now no.
Yeah.
I would want that separate. I want it. I'm interested in it. I just want to talk to her and ask her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I personally want to interview her and ask her just about like her process. Separately when she also in that like bit at the end where she mentions that like his files are at Howard University it never occurred to me that I also could have gone to Howard University in addition to going to, also would have been an option other than the Library of Congress but like I don't know like just would be really interested to hear like her talking through the process and like how I don't know like
Yeah. I'm really curious what the proposal for this book looked like when she initially like was trying to sell it. Like was it built around the scam? Was it built around the history? Like cuz I feel like my like impulse would be like it makes sense to market this book as the scam book and like then like you get to Trojan horse like a lot of other
it's actually a colonialism book. That's every book I pick is either capitalism or colonialism.
Yep. Yep. I like to do a sciences metaphor book.
Yep. I like when one science fact is a metaphor for existence.
Yeah. I like to take one science fact and turn it into 300 pages of reading.
And I like tricking people into reading colonialism.
Yep.
That's it. That's the meta takeaway here.
Yep.
I put this in the Discord. This is just to that end. There's I don't know. There were just so many things like about this that were just so wild and so outlandish that I laughed. I feel like I laughed more while reading this book than most of our nonfiction.
Oh, for sure.
And a lot of it wasn't stuff that wasn't necessarily a joke. It was just stuff that was like this, where it was just about like what a fucking crook Margaret Thatcher was. London was blaming this kind of town. In 1979, after Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher came to power, criminal organizations from all over the world flocked to the British capital. It just goes on to be like, when she became, it was like a haven for crime. All this
sure was.
Like, just like really incredible. No better drag than the truth. That's it. That's that. I have no.
Yeah.
I have
I agree.
I just felt that deserved its moment.
Yep. It did. I'm glad that we got to highlight it.
It's also interesting too, like the people who remained like true believers. I have shortly after this Rigby, who is a guy in London who his like seedy background was that he was being investigated for porn charges. And gets brought in to do like to help Blamieza with like filming stuff with like AV needs, and then basically becomes like a runner back and forth to Ghana, between Ghana and London, like bringing money and weapons back and forth. They don't really like elaborate on that. Just all you really need to know about Rigby is that he's bringing money and weapons into Ghana, and don't worry about it. But he like he's like, most people seem to think Blame Mieza was the world's biggest con man. Rigby later said he wasn't. He was a patriot. And like I don't know, the sort of like unwavering,
Yeah.
again, like
The commitment.
it circles back around to this thing of like, you either have to accept that you were somebody got duped. It's either like the rest of the world or it's you, and it's much
Mm-hmm.
easier, like emotionally and like logically,
Mm-hmm.
it makes the most sense that it's the world and not me, but like emotionally and psychologically it is very painful to accept that it's me and not the rest of the world. Also, this quote is before we learn that is from like when around the time that Rigby is first introduced, and before we get into like the full extent of how deep Rigby gets in,
Yeah.
which is also really interesting. And like thinking about this now, like the things that he did, um, yeah, I can see why it would be like easier to lie to yourself than like accept the reality
Yeah.
of what you enabled.
Yeah. I was waiting for the surprise reveal at the end that Blame Mieza
Was
was
still
actually
alive.
still
Yeah,
alive.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Same.
That's where my true believer
I was like, wait, so
conspiracy
he didn't
theorist
really
came
die,
out.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like such a weird, interesting little detail where like his kids talk about how like it wasn't that like when their dad was like credibly accused of being a con man that people like stopped talking to him. It was like when he was dead and they had no money left, like that's when people like that's
Right.
when their friends like stopped
Right.
hanging out with them. Like
If your
that
dad
was
is
like
a
a pretty
con
cutting
man,
detail.
as long as when you still had the money, when you still had the spoils of your dad being a con man, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But your dad's a con
Yeah.
man and you're broke? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Also very Trumpy in a way.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
It's That's an interesting like mirror too to early in the book. They talk about Nkrumah's wife coming back to Ghana some years after he
Oh,
passed, and his daughter, I think it was, being in class, and this is like in the like still earlier years after his passing, when the like his legacy was still very much not he was not being remembered fondly, and
hmm.
her like being in class and like her like sitting in a classroom and being told that like her dad like robbed the country, basically, and like
Yeah.
that sort of experience. I don't know, there's like a little bit of
Yeah.
like
Generational. Yeah.
yeah thing going on
Yeah,
there.
now I keep thinking about like that research question and how much I feel like that must have shaped the book just in terms of like what information was available and kind of like almost probably uh compulsion's not the right word. But like probably like I feel like I would have a hard time in this setting not feeling like I want to include every single detail that I come across, knowing like especially in the context like you were saying of the ending where the bit where she's talking about how hard it was to get this information and like
Uh-huh.
a lot of the people involved are now old and maybe not alive, like feeling maybe almost a sense of obligation to like include as
Include
much as
everything,
possible.
pin it all down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have such a hard time figuring out what to exclude from that.
And especially like when in the early chapters when she's talking about Nkrumah and his legacy and all of that, there's so much too of like um sifting through, and this she does talk about, and not necessarily like the active research process of it, but she does talk about like the degrees of sort of, you know, active misinformation and psyops and like whatever and all of that that was like
Yeah.
going on, uh and how yeah, and so like as you're combing through information and you're combing through, you know, like stuff that's been like declassified now about what it says in the back she's British Ghanaian, both, so the U.S. and the
Hmm.
British, whatever, all
Yeah.
assorted governments,
Yeah.
what they were up to during this period of time, and how like upsetting that would be to continually come across, the sense of, again, like, I don't know, like this need to to
Yeah.
include all the details to set the record straight, because oh my god, this sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Oh my god,
It
this
was a good
sucks.
book. I enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed this. That's our final question of, did you like it?
Yeah.
I really did. I liked this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting reading it in this context and being like, huh, I wonder how we're going to talk about it, because I think that's always a question. And it's so different, but I think like obviously there's the colonialism and capitalism of it all, and that's like
Sure.
always relevant.
Always,
And
we
then
can always talk about that, sure.
yeah. And then I think there's just like so many interesting, I'm glad that we talked about it, because I wouldn't have thought as much about the research process, I think, if it weren't for this conversation. So now I'm like really glad.
I just also really like, I just think it's so interesting, the basic thing here of like, it is a nonfiction book about like lies and how lies shape the truth, and a story about how the world works, how lies change history, and about how so much of today's world is built on lies. Blame me as it matters, because he was not the exception, he was the rule.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it.
But don't do finance crimes. That's what I really took away from this book. Because like once you start, like you gotta keep going. Like that's the problem with the finance crimes.
He kept trying to like find a way to go legit, but you know, that was never gonna happen. It was never.
Yeah, because one of the things, like this is the thing about that doctor, and then also the governments and stuff. Like he had to keep putting himself in line with like increasingly shady people. Like I think once you're at the point where you have to turn to a doctor who's probably murdered someone, like,
and like one of his like closest associates in the U.S. too around that same time was an active segregationist.
Right. Yep.
Like, all these people who are like these are fucking evil people that you're now relying on. In a way that like it wasn't like in the beginning, his associates were largely just like fellow petty criminals. Who might lie to people a little bit, and that's kind of the extent of what
you don't want to like escalate up the criminal chain. I think
liars is about as high as you want to go. Once you start affiliating with people whose crimes are bigger than lies, it's
a risk.
Yep. It's risky
to put it lightly.
To affiliate with serious criminals.
Yeah.
That's some really big life advice from the Nonfiction Book Club. Couldn't have gotten that anywhere else.
No. Well,
that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to tell people? We don't know when we're going to meet again, but...
Yes, we know the book. I'm looking it up right now because I keep forgetting, even though I'm also excited for it. So we figured that, I decided unilaterally, and Nicole kindly agreed to my plan, that it made sense to take advantage of Emily Nussbaum's new book, Nussbaum, about reality TV. And because I feel like the next book, basically, so she has a new book coming out about reality TV. It's come up in the Discord because people know me and know where my head is at, and I figured it's coming out this month, so like that's great timing for me because I've heard having a baby is hard, and I think having to like take care of a baby is hard. So I figured it would be good to go with a book that like I think my brain space will enjoy, and that like I can return to at some ambiguous date in the future that will let you all know to discuss. Because I will probably be watching a lot of reality TV for the next few months too.
That's the vibe. That's the energy.
Yeah. Which I think also makes her our first repeat author.
Oh, yeah. I feel like we've gotten close, but haven't actually made it happen.
Yeah.
So that's also very exciting.
Yeah.
So
Date TBD. So we'll let you all know via newsletter when we feel ready to do this.
to do
Excuse me
the
again.
thing. Here, this is it. This is the book. Everybody.
Yes.
You don't have to buy it directly from Penguin Random House, but that's the one. And yeah, subscribe to the newsletter or join us on Discord, and that's where you will know when. Or if you subscribe to Deboki's YouTube channel, you will see it appear in your subscription feed. So
that's true. Also that.
I keep not knowing where I'm supposed to look. It's a situation. It's a real situation in front of me. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. It's me. I was like waiting. I was like, okay, we're done. I have to end it. Bye.